Let's start by figuring out who is Dan beyond being a Jameson brand ambassador.
So yeah, my name's Dan. I'm from Ireland. I'm 25. I've been working professionally for only about 3 years now. So I graduated in 2022. My studies were all in Ireland. I grew up in Ireland. I once did a DNA test that came back like 99% Irish, which is crazy. I don't even think that's possible. But yeah, so I grew up in Ireland. I studied there, and then I studied business with French. So I spent a couple of years in France after I graduated. And then, 6 months ago, actually 9 months ago, I got this job with Jameson and moved out to Kenya. So I've been here for about 6 months now. But in terms of who I am, I guess, not professionally, like I'm huge into music, and music and culture would be my big passions, I guess. And it's really cool now that I have a job that gets to mix those passions, I suppose. Like back in Ireland, I would have been in a few different bands and kind of really tried to engage with that scene as best as I could. And it's nice to be able to do that as well in Kenya. What else about me? I'm big into sports. It feels like a job interview. I haven't done a job interview in a while. What else? Yeah, I'm a bit of a silly Billy, I guess. I don't take myself too seriously, and I feel that kind of shines through in everything I've done so far. And yeah, I love obviously the fact that I've ended up in Kenya, which is extremely different from where I'm from. I do love to travel and meet new people, experience new things, and all that good stuff. So yeah, I guess if I had to sum myself up, what I've done, it would kind of be that. I know it's very general.
Tell us an interesting or an unknown fact about yourself.
I'll tell you a fun fact. I was born on the 1st of January, 2000. And so I got this medal for being born, for being like a millennium baby. But then the crazy thing is my best friend was born on the same day in the same hospital. But we only found out like 20 years later. It was so weird. It was so weird. So there's this weird like cosmic voodoo going on. Yeah, but very strange.
What part of your upbringing in Ireland still shapes how you walk into every room, especially here in Kenya?
The thing with Ireland is it's a really small country. There's only like 5 million Irish people, which is smaller than like the population of Nairobi, let alone Kenya. And it's small in geography as well. So everyone knows each other. And because of that, Irish people we're known for being quite goofy and silly, and kind of we're pretty fun, but we don't take things too seriously in general. And it's funny how that has really helped me so far in kind of all walks of life. Like in Ireland, you kind of take it for granted. Most people are just kind of joking with you all the time, and it's pretty normal. But then like when I was living in France, for example, it was a big advantage because French people tend to be a bit more serious. And when you're coming in with this kind of lightness about your energy and kind of a nice chill vibe, it would help situations. But I also found it quite frustrating in France because often a lot of times you're dealing with a bit more of a negative or more rational energy, which is sometimes a bit challenging. But it's then one of the things that I've loved about coming to Kenya is that everyone is so chill here, and I finally feel like, okay, grand, I'm at peace a bit, even though there is a lot of chaos and a lot of things go wrong and there's last minute changes all the time. The general vibe of people is really, really nice here. But yeah, so it's a big thing amongst Irish people, and I think it's a reason why Irish people tend to be pretty well liked around the world. It's pretty rare that I've met someone who doesn't like Irish people, and I think it's because we're not the most serious. We don't take if someone insults us or something, we're kind of like, okay, whatever, that's their problem, that's not my problem. And that's the thing you'll find with a lot of Irish people, and I think it comes from just the smallness of the country. And even the other day I was there was a Jameson event at the weekend, and there was one other Irish guy there. And so we got chatting and stuff, and it turns out he's from the village next to me back in Ireland, and like we knew a load of people in common and all this stuff. And that's it seems really weird, but it's really normal. So yeah, I guess it's a thing of like, whoever you meet in Ireland, you're probably going to know somebody who knows that person, so you better not offend them. You better stay on their good side. And so I kind of bring that with me into everything I do, trying to be well liked.
What parts of your personality have had to evolve the most since moving into Kenya, and what has stayed fiercely the same?
I'm like a very chill person, but when there's a lot of stressful stuff going on around me, I'll get stressed myself. I feel like just kind of, even like as you mentioned earlier, like Nairobi traffic, delays, everything happens a bit later and stuff. no day in Kenya has gone specifically as I've wanted it to from start to finish. There's always a little thing that will change up. And it's dealing with those little stresses that can lead to more stresses that I've had to adjust a bit more and just kind of be like, okay, you know, if we're an hour late, it's an hour late. I just have to ring someone and say it's going to be an hour late, you know? But also, I think Kenyans are extremely vibrant and extremely, in my opinion at least, super friendly as well. It's funny, I've met some people who've been like, oh, Kenyans aren't friendly. I'm like, Kenyans are extremely friendly. I've never felt more welcomed to a place in my life, genuinely. So to answer your, sorry, I'm not even answering your question here, I'm rambling. But no, the part of my personality that I've really had to affect is, yeah, just that part that sometimes does get stressed and gets a bit like, it's like, it's fine, chill out, Dan, it'll work out. And the part that has helped me, I guess, is I'm kind of naturally organized, not in the sense of I'm making lists and I'm planning out my day to the letter. It's not that type of organization, but just kind of thinking ahead and thinking of problems that may arise. Like for an example, like for Jameson Hangouts, just little things like we have to have our welcome, a bar for like everyone that comes, just to make sure we have ice. Do we have enough limes? That type of thing, which sometimes, it goes over my head as well. But I found that it's helped to, thinking ahead has sort of helped me be more in control of the projects I'm doing here.
Do you really feel like back here in Kenya, do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? And mostly, do people just view you as an ambassador or as someone who they can easily relate to?
I hope people view me as someone they can relate to. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, when I first moved here, because a lot of the clubs where Jameson activates and where we work, and the clubs and pubs, they're very much Kenyan spaces. You know, they're places where Nairobians go. We don't target expats, so to speak, because I know there's a lot of expats that live in Nairobi, but a lot of them kind of will stick to their spaces, and I feel like there is that kind of, obviously it's a welcoming place, but there is that kind of jarring sometimes between the expat community and the local community. And Jameson, we're really focused on the local community. So what would happen when I first moved here is a lot of times I'd be the only white guy in the club, which was a bit weird at first, but I'm a very open person. And so as you mentioned there, like for me, it's about connection, and that's what Jameson as a brand is about connecting with people. So I think people quickly realized, I don't know, that it's not that big of a deal to come up and have a chat and just get to know me, and for me to get to know people, it's not, And even this podcast, I was mentioning earlier, I think I'm the first white person to be on this podcast, and it's not that big of a deal, It's, me personally, I don't like that whole thing of, judging people based off of where they're from. It's from where they are now, the fact that I'm in Kenya now, working now, doing cool stuff with Kenyans, I feel like speaks for itself, I guess. So I don't like people to view me as like an ambassador or this fancy Jameson guy, because I'm not that. I'm just some idiot from Ireland who somehow ended up here. But and honestly, I feel like most Kenyans don't do that. It's very rare that I've met someone who would be, I guess, standoffish or not willing to talk with me or whatever. No, it's all been good. It's all been good vibes and good energy.
What was your first real culture shock moment in Kenya, and how did you handle it?
I think honestly, one of the big culture shocks, which is a really good culture shock, was the difference in office culture here compared with my last job. Is massive, is really big, but in a good way. Like the office that I work in Kenya, everyone's talking all the time, everyone's making jokes. A lot of them I don't understand because I still don't speak Kiswahili. Bit by bit I will get there. Whereas my last office, which is in France, was like silent all the time, and it was an open space, but you could hear a pin drop. But there was that, people in Europe tend to be a bit more reserved and a bit more quiet, especially in a professional setting. Whereas with my office now, it's like you come in and everyone's chatting, there's a buzz about the place, there's an energy. So that was a shock at first, but a good shock. So I think there is a vibrancy to Kenya and to Nairobi specifically that's very palpable. And then like on the other side of that, a shock for me was like that first time coming off at the airport, and Nairobi traffic, like it's no joke. And then like seeing everyone like zooming around on the bikes, and even like whatever, 6 months later, I have my own bike and I drive around a bit, and I've gotten used to that. But I remember like my first week, because it wasn't even a first moment thing, it was like my first week. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to drive here without losing both of my legs? I love my legs, you know. But that was a shock. But then obviously you get used to it, you get used to everything. Obviously another big shock coming from Europe is like the inequality in Nairobi and in Africa is pretty crazy. Like there's poverty in Europe as well, but it's not to the same scale. And also just the fact that because Nairobi is growing so much economically, there's obviously some areas which are really, really affluent and really just doing really well. And then you can go like literally 2 minutes down the road and you're in a really, really poor area. And just seeing that side by side was quite shocking and eye-opening, I guess. So yeah, that was obviously something that I'd never seen before. That's something I had to get used to. But most of the culture shocks were really positive culture shocks and being like, I feel a lot of much more freedom to be myself here than I did back home, which is a bit of a crazy thing.
If Nairobi were a person, how would you describe their vibe?
Insane. No, chaotic. But if Nairobi were a person, they're like, how do I, like a fun uncle. That's how I describe Nairobi. Like the fun uncle that's always off on these side quests and adventures. And every time they're coming in the house, they've got a new story for you. And they've got some new crazy thing that they did, but it's all good crazy. It's never bad crazy. You're never worried about your Nairobi uncle. You always know they're going in the good direction. So yeah, I describe them as like chaotic, but in a good way.
If you were to pick out just one part of the Jameson ethos, what will it be?
The whole thing with Jameson is that it's a really alternative brand, and we really don't take ourselves seriously. Like the way I got my job, it wasn't based on my knowledge of whiskey, or I had worked in hospitality before, but I wasn't like a cocktail expert or a professional mixologist. I was chosen for this job based on my personality, because the assessors found that my personality matched the brand personality. And my personality, I think I mentioned it earlier, is I don't take myself too seriously. I'm pretty relaxed. And I'm into my music, I'm into my culture. That's what really drives me more, is the creative and kind of cultural and artistic side of my life. And it's really, really great to mix that with my work. But yeah, to sum up like Jameson and what the ambassador, to be a brand ambassador for Jameson represents, it is that it's all about connection, not taking ourselves too seriously. And it's that idea of, look, there's a lot of craziness in the world and a lot of crazy stuff going on in our lives, but you know, you can chill out over a glass of whiskey, connect, have a laugh. And that's really what the good stuff in life is about, you know? And it's kind of keeping that idea alive, if I had to sum it up. A single tear rolls down my cheek as I say it.
What has been some of the most rewarding and the most surprising moments that you've encountered?
I became the brand ambassador for Kenya at a really cool time where we started doing these brand partnerships. We didn't want Jameson to be about having influencers. We wanted to find partners, so young people and creatives and collectives in Nairobi who had their projects that they want to work on, and what they're missing is that brand sponsorship and that brand money. And so we partnered with them. So we have 7 brand partners. I'm wearing one of them right now. So Studio 18 is a brand partner of ours, and this is Metamorphosize, one of the brands within Studio 18. There's also Bonkers. I'll list them all. So there's Studio 18, Bonkers, Barack Jacuzzi, Shapaman, Keithan, Xenia Manasseh, and DJ Pfizer. So there are 7 brand partners. And the way it works is they have events and projects that they want to work on. So for example, for Xenia, she recently did like a songwriting masterclass, like with her fans and with people who are into songwriting. And Jameson kind of helped sponsor that. It was at Snowball recording studio. Shapaman, each month he holds kind of a really cool underground cultural event called The Pack. Studio 18 have their fashion pop-ups. Bonkers this weekend has his it's a fashion kind of streetwear cultural event called Drip or Drown on Saturday. And the way it works is they can curate the event, and Jameson comes in and sponsors and helps kind of support, and we do our branding and we support with the bar. And it's just such an awesome way to work with creatives and to tap into the culture and to be a part of the culture that I feel like, at least from what I've seen, a lot of the people I've talked to around the city and in the scene have been really, really grateful for. Obviously my bosses have been grateful as well, which is always nice, a nice high five. But like that wasn't my idea or my project or anything, but I did just happen to come when it was starting, when the ball was rolling on it, you know. So a lot of the work I've done has been related to that. It's been related to supporting our brand partners, helping get these events going, and kind of tapping into the culture, which suits me down to the ground. So work-wise, that has been the big highlight. And also, you know, over the course of the journey, I've become friends with all these people. So a lot of my friends are now the partners that we've worked with, which is really, really awesome. And was just such a cool way to welcome me into the city and welcome me into the scene. I was kind of like given this magic golden ticket to straight away meet everyone, which was really, really cool. In terms of personally, obviously, like, Kenya is such a beautiful country. Like, it's crazy that, you know, you drive 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes and you're in Limuru, or you go even further, you're in Naivasha. Like, because Ireland is a beautiful country as well, but this is a different level of beauty, you know? We have trees, but you guys have trees, you know? We have lakes, you have lakes. So no, it's I feel super, super blessed to be living in a place, and not just living, but, you know, working in a place where, you know, I can, if I want, go to Mount Kenya and experience just the most incredible, and for me, really, really unreal levels of just nature and beauty. Like, you kind of look around, and each time, in Nairobi, I get these moments, but especially when I leave, I feel really shocked at like where I am and where I've ended up. So yeah, no, those are the two things. It's like, in the city, when I'm here, when I'm working, I feel really blessed to be surrounded by such creative and cool people and get to help support them and work with them. And then when I leave the city, I feel equally blessed to just be in such an incredible place.
What are some of the unique challenges that you have faced promoting Jameson here in Kenya as compared to in Ireland?
So yeah, one of the challenges, which is, it's not even a challenge, because it's like basically like the whole thing of bottle service. Like, obviously in most Kenyan clubs, it's bottle service, and if you're ordering a Jameson, you're going to order a bottle of Jameson. But back in Ireland, and kind of across the world really, in clubs and stuff, we're normally selling cocktails. You see it sell, like the most popular one is a Jameson Sprite with a squeeze of lime, like super simple, JSL. And that's part of the culture change, I guess, we're trying to do, is to sell more cocktails. So even at any Jameson event you come to, if it's a Jameson own event, there won't be bottles there, it'll only be cocktails. And it's not that there's anything wrong with bottle service, it's just that we're trying to mix it up and do things our way, which is what Jameson has always kind of stood for. So in terms of a challenge, that has been one, is kind of trying to convince people, I guess, to maybe try a cocktail, or not avoid a bottle, but just to try to drink alcohol in a different or new way. In terms of like challenges, obviously doing business in Kenya is more difficult than doing it in Ireland for a number of reasons. Like, even just like traffic, to say it again, like, it is a challenge. That's a thing that can get in the way. And just, I guess, just the alcohol industry is a bit less developed than it is back in Ireland. And to be fair, I didn't work with Jameson in Ireland. Like, I got this job and immediately I was brought to Kenya. So I don't have that real world experience of being the brand ambassador in Dublin. But no, I'd say personally that the biggest challenge is, because we have a smaller team in Kenya, I've been given a lot of responsibility compared to, because the way that we have brand ambassadors all around the world. But I would have a bit more responsibility than, say, like the brand ambassador in Dublin or Spain or wherever, purely for the fact that we have a smaller team, we're doing a lot of events, and we're really kind of pushing the brand to grow. So from a personal perspective, yeah, the biggest challenge has just been taking on work that I wouldn't have done before, or that I wouldn't have expected to do. But in the end, it's all for personal and professional growth. So you can't complain too much.
Is there a memorable experience here in Kenya that has left a lasting impact in your life?
Honestly, like, just my first 2 weeks here, being welcomed into the team that I work with, and just immediately being brought out and introduced to people, is just in a very, like, we're open in Ireland, we're very open and friendly, but we still have, there's kind of steps to follow, you know, before, Whereas in Kenya, it really felt like I was thrown in the deep end, and it was like a kind of a sink or swim. So a specific, honestly, my first time in a Kenyan nightclub, which was Kovo, and which was crazy. Like it was the full, like, I think a flamethrower was brought out at one stage. There was someone dancing with a mask on. I don't know if this is normal. It's like, I was like, okay, we're in the deep end here. I don't want to catch my hair on fire. That was pretty mental, but it was like a great initial memory. And then I'm trying to think. So I got a motorbike a couple of weeks ago, and I was driving it around, and like I learned to ride it in Kenya, which is like, again, that's a thing you can't do at home. And I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life, like me cutting around Nairobi on my Nduthi. I've called her Queen Latifah.
In your opinion, what makes Jameson stand out from other whiskey brands?
With Jameson, we do like an extra distillation process, which makes it really smooth. And that's why it's so popular around the world, because Scotch whiskies, which are also fantastic, but they're known for being a bit more like robust and a bit strong. But Jameson is quite smooth, so it's kind of easier to drink, and it's why anywhere you go in the world, you're going to find Jameson. But in terms of what makes it stand out for me, it's in our culture. So whiskey, when it was initially invented, was called Ishka Baha. And so Ishka means water, and Baha means life-giving. So the water of life, that was the original name. And so England took us over, whatever, like 300-400 years ago. And over the years, we started to speak English. But Ishka Baha, the Baha was kind of just dropped. Ishka started to be pronounced as Ishki, and Ishki became whiskey. So that word whiskey that we've been saying all around the world that everyone knows is actually a root of the Irish word for water, Ishka. So it is connected to my culture and my heritage, and it's pretty crazy for me to get to come to someplace so different and be able to talk about it passionately, which I love to do. So, and that passion, like, there's even small things to do with the distillery. Like, obviously whiskey has to be matured in barrels, and Jameson is one of the only distilleries where we still repair all of the barrels by hand. So there's this real craft element. We still use our traditional Irish pot still whiskey, which has been like the original way, one of the original ways of making whiskey. There's this whole craft element. Like Jameson is 1780s when it was founded, like nearly 250 years old, and it's still this big brand around the world. So I feel honored to be what makes it stand out, what makes it different, is that it's a traditional whiskey that has been around for so long, but has somehow managed to tap into cultures and to youth cultures and to new movements all around the world. And that kind of juxtaposition between being something that's on the one hand super old, but also really, really new and creative, for me is what I think makes it stand out. We don't just lean on the craft element, on the old schoolness of it, the triple distillation. Yeah, we talk about all that, and that's what makes it such a great liquid. But in terms of what makes it relevant and what has an impact, it's the fact that we try our best to tap into culture in an authentic way. We don't just slap Jameson, give someone a load of money and slap Jameson all over it. It's like there's a whole conversation that happens when we're curating events with our brand partners or with any place where we want it to be authentic, real, and have a real impact on the community. And so to be a part of that for me, and I think people are understanding that for sure in Nairobi a bit more, is like, there's some really cool people that work for Jameson. It's not like a faceless brand, you know? And I think what we're trying to do is really relevant in terms of, we're trying to obviously grow the whiskey and sales and all that good stuff and make a bit of moolah. But also from the Jameson side, there's a whole craft element, a whole history that really affects me and affects most Irish people. And then on the modern side, we're like, okay, well, how can we now create that new culture someplace else? Or at least the culture is creating itself, but how can we assist? How can we be of service, you know? So I think that's what makes it stand out, is that you have this just great balance between old and new in multiple ways. Even me, like, I'm super young, but I've been sent off to be a brand ambassador for a whiskey that's 250 years old. Whereas for a different type of whiskey, a whiskey that's much more known for, I don't know, for the robustness of the flavor and the oldness and all that stuff, you'd expect the brand ambassador to be kind of someone in their 50s who's like a cigar expert or whatever. But for Jameson, that's not the case. So I think that's what makes it stand out.
What metrics do you use in selecting the different brand partners to work with? And what metrics do you use to gauge the success of the particular events or engagements that you have with these artists and partners?
So the way we select, it's a group process. So like I'm a brand ambassador. I'm just one small cog in a bigger machine. So it's a group process with the full marketing team. What the most important is we're looking for people who have their own vision. We're not going to create a vision for someone. If someone comes to us and they could be really cool and have like 100,000 followers, but they just want money to kind of like post on social media or to be an influencer, that's not the strategy we're looking for. Like, to give an example, like Studio 18, when they reached out to us, they had a full proposal of 3 specific pop-ups they wanted to do. They had the breakdown of the money they needed, what the money was going for, who they expected to come, how much money they expected to generate, how we could tap in. And it was like the easiest proposal in the world. I just had to like take it and give it to my boss and then let the process go from there. So in terms of who we select, that's the most important, is that like some of our brand partners, they don't have the biggest social media following, but the vision they have and what they want to do is really, really impressive. Obviously, they need to fit the brand persona, which I've mentioned is like alternative, kind of youth culture and doing things a different way, and obviously not taking themselves too seriously. But in terms of there's no set process of who we choose. It's kind of a team effort, and it depends on what gets sent sort of our way. And the metrics for measuring success are kind of just like standard marketing metrics. So it's a mixture between like social media impressions and interactions, and then also events. So for an event, like how many people came, what the general TA was, how many cocktails were sold. It's literally just, it's kind of a generic mixture between the digital marketing side and the on the ground, boots on the ground, looking around, seeing what's going on.
Jameson Connect is huge. I'd like you to describe for us the atmosphere and the objectives behind that particular property.
Yeah, so Jameson Connects is it's an interesting one for me, because obviously I've only been here for 6 months, and I know that a few years ago Jameson Connects was like this huge, like it was like more like a massive like festival kind of. And what we're trying to do now is make it more low-key, a bit more intimate, and a bit more relevant is not the word, but we really want to make it an experience. Jameson Connects, for us, we no longer talk about it as like a concert or a festival. For us, it's a brand experience. So the atmosphere, like the last Jameson Connects we had was on December 12th, and it was at the Railway Museum. And it was a more low-key affair than Jameson Connects of the past. I don't think the tactic at the moment isn't to bring like a 2 Chainz or whoever to Kenya. It's more to try and create like a little Jameson world, a Jameson bubble. And so the atmosphere, I can tell you the atmosphere at the last one was incredible. So what we did was everyone who came had 2 free cocktails, and they got a free meal as well. And each person had like a Jameson ID card that they could use. And the idea was that we had tons of experiences. We had like customizable, people could bring their own clothes and get them customized with like Jameson patches. We had Studio 18 doing like screen printing, like on the day screen printing, limited edition. There was a VR like tasting experience that was hidden in one of the railways. It was really, really cool. For anyone who was there, they'll know what I was talking about. It was just an awesome day. And obviously there was music, like the DJ booth was there in the middle, the artist stage was there in the middle, and people did come for the music, but also people came for the experience of the day. And so this idea of ID card was, if you engaged with all the different experiences, you got stamps along the way, and at the end you won some free merchandise. So it was really about trying to give Jameson Connects. It's about trying to give as much to people who love Jameson as possible in a really, really authentic and fun way. So the vibe has changed. It's not just a mad party anymore that goes on until the middle of the night and it's about getting as drunk as possible. It's really about, it's like a daytime experience. It does go into the night, but it finishes at 11. And the vibe is just about, connection, getting to know people. Again, I wasn't at Jameson Connects of the past, but from what I've been told, it's much more chilled than it used to be. And that's kind of what we want to continue doing. Even Jameson Hangout, that was on last weekend, was the same vibe. And we did the same thing. People had their ID card. With that ID card, they got a free cocktail on entry. They got free food, a free meal. And if they engage with all the experiences or enough experiences, they can win some free merch. Complimentary merch, I shouldn't be saying free.
You've most likely attended different events in Nairobi, which are non-Jamison events. Out of all those, which event particularly stood out for you that you can mention?
For me personally, like Gondwana is crazy. Like I genuinely had no idea that there was that type of scene in Kenya. And it was really, I've only been to one Gondwana event, but it was pretty mind blowing just to see like that many people into like electronic music. It's different electronic music to what we play in Europe. Like obviously it's like Afro house, I'm a piano. But yeah, it was really, really crazy to see that. So obviously Gondwana stands out. And I think a lot of people would probably say that as well.
What are some of the strategies that you've found that have been very effective in building relationships with local consumers?
Again, this is like me personally. What works for me is I try to come into every room and stuff with a smile and with good energy. And I feel like that 5 minutes of talking about nothing related to what you need to talk about is really, really important to just building. It's getting everyone relaxed and defused, because you never know what's going on. Someone could have just had the most stressful encounter of their life and are coming in, or they could just be hungry or tired, or you never know what's going on and can be coming into, and it happens with me as well. I always find when I'm super stressed or tired or just fed up and I'm coming into something that maybe I don't particularly want to be in, if someone just spends 2 minutes talking about the weekend or what they did or any old thing, talking about my red cheeks and how I look sunburnt, you know, that all that stuff puts me at ease. And so I try and do the same thing. So yeah, in terms of building connection, I feel like you really can't, and it's funny because for some cultures it doesn't work. For some cultures they do prefer to just be direct and straight into business and all that stuff. But I've always found that to make a connection, especially actually, yeah, with Kenyans especially, it is really helpful to just have that 2 minutes of getting to know you. What did you get up to? How's your day been? Anything is nice. And then once that's all chilled and done and out of the way, then to talk turkey.
In terms of these relationships, how do you maintain them over time?
Just by showing up, I guess. Like personally, I know that the types of relationships I build are a bit different from kind of the standard professional relationships, but if someone is putting on an event or has invited me to something, I'll always make an effort to go. Like I'm outside a lot. I'm inside a lot working, but like if there is an event that someone has invited me to specifically, I'll go to that one, and then in return I'll invite them to an event that we're working on. So it's just being there, and that's more in terms of like an events perspective I'm talking about, but in a professional perspective it works as well. Like if someone invites you to a meeting, even if you don't want to go, or if your week's not looking like it's going to shape up to that, to still show up and make the effort. Yeah, I'd say that's showing up for people when they need you and when you don't essentially have to show up, I think speaks volumes.
What personal qualities do you think are essential in brand ambassadorship?
You have to be extroverted for sure. You have to enjoy talking with people, because that's what you're going to spend most of your time doing. And I'd say adaptability is really important. Like a lot of the situations I've been put in, I've never been in before. And it's really important, I guess, just to, be able to adapt to situations, be able to talk to people. And I think to be able to see the bigger picture is a kind of a critical one as well. To be able to understand that, like, if something is going wrong, it's not the end of the world, you know, it's only a small hiccup.
In your perspective, what makes the Kenyan market quite unique as compared to other markets?
The two biggest Jameson markets in Africa are Nigeria and South Africa, kind of by far. But Kenya would be sort of the biggest one in East Africa. So what makes it unique is Kenya, and you even see it not even in alcohol, but in culture, in events and everything. Kenya kind of has this opportunity now to be that big player in East Africa. And I feel like a lot of people know that and feel it already is the big player in East Africa, but more to put East Africa on the map, I guess. And it's the same in alcohol. Kenya is growing, it's doing well. So what makes it interesting, is there is this kind of unique, and it's happening across multiple, multiple fields, that's the word I'm looking for, where you see Kenya kind of ramping up. And in a few years it could be, obviously a lot of things come from Nigeria and South Africa, but I think, it's Kenya's time, it's East Africa's time to, shape culture in Africa.
What's your opinion on alcohol being marketed as a lifestyle choice or as a social status symbol?
For a social status thing, I don't know. It wouldn't particularly be. Obviously, there's some alcohols that are marketed that way, but for Jameson specifically, we don't market ourselves like that. But as a lifestyle brand as well, you need to be careful because alcohol, it's alcohol. You have to drink responsibly, of course. And we know that a lot of what we market is about drinking responsibly. But at the same time, alcohol is a social thing. It's a thing that people consume when they're with other people, and that in a way kind of does make it, I guess, a lifestyle thing. But in terms of actually marketing it as purely a lifestyle brand, we wouldn't do too much of that.
What are some emerging trends in the Kenyan market that you've seen as Jameson, or that you're pioneering as Jameson?
What's the big trend? I guess the trend is just the new Nairobi, like the Gen Zs, the new Nairobi, of which I am one. And I think their drinking habits are changing. I think younger people around the world are drinking less. And I think, I'm not sure, I don't know the exact stats of Kenya, but I'm sure it could be a similar thing. But in terms of the actual alcohol that people are consuming, besides cocktails, I don't know. I don't know too much. I guess young people do seem to be drinking more liquor than beer, if whether that be by shots or by bottles, or a lot of them, they don't drink anymore. So I feel like that's kind of a global trend that's happening, but Kenya specifically, I'm not too sure.
Any memorable experience that you've had in Kenya that showcases the warmth and hospitality of Kenyan people?
A buddy of mine invited me to go for dinner with his family, which is like, in Ireland, that'd be a pretty big thing, And so I kind of go and meet up with him, and it was like his family, but also his girlfriend's family. And it wasn't like a dinner, it was just like a games night at their house. And it was just really warm and friendly for me, because in Ireland, if you're inviting someone to dinner, even though we're pretty chill, for something like that, we get a bit reserved and a bit formal. And it was just like, all of a sudden I was we're all just drinking, playing cards. It felt like what Ireland would have felt like maybe a few years ago back, And so that was one that really stood out to me. Again, there was a buddy of mine I'd only met him a couple of times at this stage, and we kind of met up for a drink, and he was like, "Oh, I'm actually driving back to Kisumu this evening." I was like, "Oh, can I go with you?" I was like, "Yeah, of course, just get in the car." And so the next thing, we're driving to Kisumu. I'm in Kisumu for the weekend. He's bringing me around to... People are just very welcoming and open to whenever any house I've entered into, the hospitality has just been crazy, and it's like, sit down and eat some food, have some ugali, have some boozy, have some kuku.
When all is said and done, how would you like to be remembered in Nairobi?
Oh, just that foolish Irish boy, that came. No, I don't know, because I feel like I've done. I shouldn't be saying I, because it's a whole team, really. I know I'm the brand ambassador, so I get to be the face of it a bit more, but it's a whole marketing team, and I feel like the work we've done has been really impressive. So what I'd want us to be remembered for, Jameson to be remembered for, is these events that we've helped put on, and this culture that we've helped, I guess, to grow or helped support in our own small way. Me personally, no, if people remember me as that fun loving, red-faced boy that they made. That's all I need, but no, I really hope that we've had, and I think we have, any impact that we've had has been positive, which is great. That's all it's about, is making positive experiences and positive memories for people.
What has been your biggest win and your biggest L so far?
I think the biggest win has been the Jameson Connects was probably, so that was with my colleague Leah. So Jameson is owned by Pernod Ricard, which is a big French company. So that we own like Jameson, Martell, Ballantine's, Chivas, Malfi, Beefeater, Olmeca. There's all these brands are all under the one umbrella of Pernod Ricard. So I'm just the brand ambassador for Jameson, but my colleague Leah Atfield is the brand ambassador for all the other brands. She does all the rest of them. For Jameson Connects, she was the lead on that, but I worked very closely with her. So it was funny because we had kind of the two brand ambassadors with obviously the rest of the marketing team, but we had a real pivotal role to play. And it was the first Jameson Connects, as I mentioned, where it was very different from the last ones. It was smaller. It was all about the experience. And I feel like we really pulled off something special. Like there was errors and there was mistakes, and it was a lot of work and a lot of stress, but we really, really did something pretty incredible, in my opinion. So that for me is the biggest win. And also that Jameson Connects took place like literally 2 months, I think, to the day after I came to Kenya. So from when I came to Kenya, it was kind of brand partnerships, Jameson Connects. Those are my two things, and they both worked out well. So those would be my biggest wins, I guess. I'll tell you my biggest L. I'll tell you, I have thought about it. My fashion sense is not good. I've been letting down the side fashion wise. I know I'm looking okay today, but this was purchased yesterday. All right, Dowdy, if you're watching. So no, my fashion sense has let me down, especially when I've been hanging around with all these cool, fashionable people, and I've been the worst dressed person in the room. But I'm changing that from yesterday, moving on. That's been my biggest L, has been not taking care of myself. I have been taking care of myself, but not taking care of my fashion, my cool factor. The nose ring can only do so much.
What does excellence mean to you?
Excellence. It means doing your best. Whatever your best is, I think. Like, I think it's really challenging nowadays, because every day I wake up, and it's such a bad habit, and the first thing I do is go on Instagram, and I'm immediately shown what everyone else in my life is doing, and see someone who's in Thailand and someone who's starting a startup, and it's great, and they're doing their best, but all I can do is my best. And I feel like it is tough. Like, comparison really can mess you up if you focus on it too much. So I think trying to figure out what is the best that you can do, or what I can do, and just trying to know where your limits are and what you can do and what you can't do. That's excellence for me. It's not growing the biggest business or doing the most or being the most successful in the world or in Kenya or even in your town. It's like being the best that you can be, I guess, which I know is a bit cringe, but I feel like it is true. And I've been trying recently to use, at least in the morning times, to use social media less, because it's such a bad way to start your day, to just get up and immediately see like, oh wow, they're handsomer than I am, they have more money than I do, they're in a cooler place than I am. It's like, cool. You can't be starting your day like that. Yeah, so excellence for me, just kind of, it doesn't have a set definition. It's kind of based on the individual and what they can do, and as long as they're doing their best.
Which music, book, TV show, movie, or podcast are you currently listening to or watching?
So my favorite podcast, which I would recommend to anyone, it's an Irish podcast called the Blind Boy Podcast. And it's this guy from Ireland who nobody knows what he looks like. He wears a mask on his head. He's been famous for like about 15 years. And he basically writes short stories. He writes these crazy books. But his podcast is basically just about whatever he wants it to be about. And the way it works is he does hot takes. He like finds some idea. Like, it could be a current, like the most recent one is how he related the history of onions to Trump's tariffs. And he just goes on this insane journey from the history of onions and weaves it into like what's happening in the current day. I would recommend it to anyone. It's really, really good. So the Blind Boy Podcast, I think it's like the only podcast I listen to regularly. Music, my music taste has changed a lot. Like my love would be like rock music, heavy metal. But obviously coming to Africa, coming to Kenya specifically, I'm getting much more into like a lot of the music I would like before. Like I liked dancehall before, but I'm re-upping on my dancehall music. But recently, I've been listening to a lot of Rema. I'd listened to Rema before, but recently I've been binging through it again. And also Amapiano. I'd never listened to Amapiano before Kenya, and now I really, really like it. So, but yeah, in terms of music, I guess that's it. And books. A TV show. I just finished The White Lotus. I watched that. It's about whatever the hotel with all the rich people go to and their lives get all messed up. So I'd been meaning to watch that for ages, and I just rewatched it. And it's so good. And book. What am I reading at the moment? I'm reading, actually, it's super interesting. It's Sapiens. So it's like the history of humankind from like start to finish, but it's absolutely mind-blowing. Like the guy who wrote it goes like really into like he deep dives into like just a lot of things we take for granted. They're actually like kind of modern myths, I guess. And also the fact that like we just see ourselves as humans, but for most of human history, there was like 6 species of like humans. So there was like whatever, there's Homo sapiens, which is us, but there's also like Homo erectus and like the Neanderthals and all these. And you think of them as like different animals, but it's like how there's like an Indian elephant and an Australian or an African elephant and a saltwater crocodile and a freshwater crocodile. And there was those versions of us, which is like pretty crazy. I was like, what? I couldn't believe what I was reading. So it's a really, really cool book. And literally it's like each page is just like another, your brain explodes with an actual, and it's like a true fact about who we are. So I found that to be super, super interesting. What I read earlier in the year, a book called Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut, which was really, really good, about kind of like World War II, but also like mixed in with like time travel and aliens. It's really crazy. So yeah, those would be my book recs.
Which song, album, or movie best describes your life right now?
Oh my God, that's a tough question. Oh man, you've caught me off guard there. But I'm gonna think of a movie. I feel like a movie. Yeah. Which movie describes my life right now? Rush Hour. Specifically 3. No, yeah, probably Rush Hour. Just like life is hectic, but life is good, you know? It's been busy. Yeah.
Whiskey aside, what are your other top 3 liquor preferences?
See, I have weird taste in, so liquor or alcohol in general. Liquor. So I really like, it's not popular in Kenya, but there's a French brand called Ricard's, which it's actually owned by, it's part of Pernod Ricard as well. It's so good. It tastes like black licorice. You mix it with water, and it's one of my favorite drinks of all time. I also really like vodka, and I like Jaeger a lot, which I know it's not the most popular. It's a unique taste, but I do enjoy a Jaeger from time to time. And I guess Jaeger is actually kind of similar to Ricard because they're both made with kind of like herbs, and I guess like they're kind of got this almost like fruity, flowery flavor. So I guess there's something to that I like. But yeah, besides whiskey, yeah, I'm not too much of a gin man. I'm not really a tequila person. I'd say vodka, Ricard, and maybe Jaeger coming in number 4.
If you're given a chance to collaborate with a brand or a personality, either in Kenya or globally, who would it be?
Honestly, Vans would be a really good fit with Jameson. I'm not sure if we've partnered with them before. Vans would be really cool. I know these are big brands. Carhartt as well would be such an awesome brand to collaborate with. I know we did a collaboration with Dickies last year or a couple of years before, so a similar one has happened. And in terms of a personality, to give context, actually, Jameson's global brand ambassador is Anderson .Paak, who really fits well with that brand personality. I'm trying to think of like who in Africa or Kenya will be a cool fit for Jameson.